Meeting to order. I want to remind myself as much as everyone else that we've adopted new rules of procedure, which we call Rudy rules. I'm going to try to follow them as best I can. There'll be a couple of changes in how we adopt, how we pass motions as well. But let me ask first whether there are any corrections or additions to the agenda. And if not, then the agenda is adopted. And the first item on our agenda is Ms. Jasper, who is the library director here at Maryland City.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to the westernmost branch of our county. This might be the first time for some of you coming all the way out here, so I appreciate you making the trek down 32. We are situated in Laurel. Laurel is a city that is actually incorporated into 4 different counties: Anne Arundel, Howard, Montgomery, and PG. So we get a number of customers from all the counties here, one of the border branches. We are also probably, actually to my recollection, the only branch that is situated in a residential community. This branch was, the county was gifted this land for $1, I believe, to use this land. We originally in the shopping center across on 198 where Shoppers and TJ Maxx and the Dollar Tree are. And we moved over here in 1998 as part of the community. We are still considered by some to be the Russet Library, but we obviously are a public library. We also have very close attachments to the Maryland City community because that's where we were located before. So that's why we are the Maryland City at Russet Library, if you're wondering. Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah, it's a long name. Actually still longer than the Michael E. Bush Annapolis Library. My staff actually counted out the letter. Some of the things about our demographics is we have large senior, mobile senior community. We have young families, and we have a lot of computer users. Our branch is a destination branch, so we often do not have a lot of walkers. Some of the people in the community do walk, but there's no walking distance for any elementary, middle, or high school either. So a lot of our outreach is very much outreach to our neighboring schools. We have some of the things that we have that are unique to us. Obviously, as you noticed, our layout is a little different. Our meeting room is very far from the main library, but I encourage you after the meeting, if you have time, to come up to our branch because very lovely branch, new carpeting, new furniture in our Discovery Jock area, and a privacy pod, which you might not be familiar with. We've got a pod that was given to us through a grant from the Racetrack Impact Fund Committee. And we are getting steady use of it all the time. People go in there for their telehealth visits, that's what I'm trying to say. Zoom communications, one-on-one, a lot of background checks and security investigations are done in there, and it's a way for them to have the space but feel like they're not imposing on the library users, which is important. We also held the second Chromebook giveaway event last night, which is a huge event for our customers. We have numerous things to add to the customer impact form because we got a lot of good feedback from it. We gave away 75 Chromebooks. I think we saw over 100 people, including members of the family. Had a coloring table for the kids to keep themselves busy, but it kept moving, and the digital experience team and department was phenomenal and did a great job. Joy was part of that group, and so we were very lucky to have them here and to run the event. But like I said, there were a number of people who were very excited about being here and getting the Chromebook, and one person saying, you know, they do all of their online learning on their phone, so being able to have this would be great. We also had a number of parents who experienced a lot of issues with the the downage of the website yesterday or the day before yesterday for their online learning and not having enough computers in the house to be able to deal with that. And some of you are shaking your head like, yeah, you know exactly how that feels. And so there were a couple of parents that were very happy to now have another Chromebook in the house to be able to help with their kids. I'm also here not only as the manager of this branch, I've been here for 8 years. I've been with the system for 15. I started in Annapolis, then came to Odenton, and now here. But I'm also the chair of Let It. Now I am the new chair of Let It, and as Let It chair, I would also ask that the board thank you for the things that you have done to make this branch more equitable the system more equitable, and helping with all of the policies that we want to change to make our library a more welcoming place, for not just for staff, but for customers. And that please be open to any other things that are presented on behalf of LED or behalf of ELT in ways to make this a better system. So I appreciate your time and welcome to my branch and enjoy your meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Anyone wants to ask?
I have a question about the Chromebooks. How is internet access handled? Is that just each person on their own, or?
Yes, so obviously we have here, we have outdoor Wi-Fi. We're not exactly sure what is happening with the Affordable Connectivity Program. There's some debate about if that's going to be kept up, but there were a few people that had it already and were using that as their access for accessibility. So hopefully we can do a little more with that. And we also obviously have the hotspots that they can check out, so that can help as well.
One other quick question about, do you have any kind of a partnership with the courts? I'm just thinking when you talked about pods, I used to work for the judiciary in Maryland, and a lot of people do remote hearings, and so I was just wondering if there's been any outreach or cross-pollination there.
No, actually, I don't. I don't know if that's because we're not really close to a court jurisdiction, just because of where we are. Like, most of the closest thing that would be in our area is PG County, so they might have their own opportunities there. But we get a lot of work from contractors that work with Fort Meade, that do background investigations and security checks. So that's a lot of what we're doing. But honestly, we had a group of teenagers doing a TikTok video. We've had people working on group projects. We have a regular customer who hears about a great meeting or webinar or something on Zoom and comes in and asks to borrow or check out an old Chromebook and uses that space for her meeting. So those kind of things are pretty key to what we're doing.
Just out of curiosity, how much was that? Did the library purchase it directly, or was that?
No, actually, like I said, it was a grant that we applied for through the racetrack. The Laurel Racetrack required, much like the LEC, to benefit a 3-mile radius. So we were able to apply for that and pay for that. That was, I believe, $21,000 for the pod, and not bad. And I know that there are several other branches that have applied for that, either their capital out grant way or some other way to get that money. So it's been a help. It's really great, especially
it's plug and play. You just kind of
plug and play. They assembled it on site. It has its own air. It has power, and we bought chairs and tables to go with it. It's actually really helpful because we don't have a quiet place like that, and a lot of people come into it. And obviously our meeting room was so far down here. We tend not to have a lot of people that want to just use this space because it's too big and they feel like they're imposing. So
yeah, that's awesome. I was on vacation this past year and I visited a library in Florida. I had a Zoom hearing and I checked out a room and it was awesome.
Yeah. So a lot of the branches, a lot of systems nearby, the other counties do have private spaces like that. So we tried to make sure that we could have one here. And that was the best way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well then, thank you, Ms. Jasper. Approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There are none. Then the minutes are approved. Public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on an issue or concern? Hearing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Now, you've received copies of the 3 policies that are on the consent agenda. And you've also received a kind of summary of those, which I think are probably helpful. I'll ask whether there are any objections to any items on the agenda. And in asking that, all I mean is, if you want to take anything off the agenda and discuss it, we'll do that. Otherwise, I'll be asking for a vote on approving the consent agenda. Okay, hearing none, I move that all items on the consent agenda be approved. May I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, and I want to welcome the 5 of you who are on the screen. Can you hear me? And I'm hoping that you can hear everybody who's actually at the table. It's probably difficult to hear Ms. Jasper because she's a little further from the microphone. But wave or do something if it looks like we can speak up easier for you.
I can definitely hear you, Chris.
Okay. So I guess I'm the first to make some remarks. Let me welcome Dylan Baylor. Is he?
He's not here yet.
He's not here.
He was gonna try to be here by Zoom, but yeah.
He'll be welcomed in the minutes. The county council did finally act in December to nominate a woman to the board. We've already taken a vote subject to that motion, so I'm simply reporting that he's now a full voting member of our board. I guess I should note that we've got Jeremy York on the screen, and I wanted to note that he's announced his candidacy for the Anne Arundel County Public School Board, and I'm excited for him for that, and certainly wish Jeremy a lot of luck. It's good to see one of our members over on the school board as well. I don't have anything further that I need to report, I don't think, so I'll turn to Kathy Delcher for a report from the treasurer.
Okay, so we are beginning the budget season with the County Executive Office. We will be submitting our operational and supplemental requests on January 24th, and this will start the negotiating process. We are presently scheduled to meet with the county executive and his budget staff in person to discuss our requests on March 14th. For the December 2023 financial report, we are expected to receive and expend approximately 50% of our budgeted revenues and expenditures respectively. To date, we have received 51% of total revenues with no major variances noted. Also, we have spent 46% of the budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 2024. Membership spending under business and travel is over budget presently, but will be absorbed in total within the final budget. No other major variances are noted at this time. Any questions? Rob?
Rob, yeah?
Not me?
Oh, okay, sorry, your hand was up.
Okay. No, well, yeah, good report as always. So it's good to see that both staff and board chair, committee chair, right on the ball. It's always good to hear we're on a balanced budget. So thank you. Skip Alt is next on the agenda. He's got a few items to talk about, but I want to say as to one of them, we'll all be anxious to hear what he has to say about the report on what the status is of the enabling legislation for the union organizing effort. But I'm going to ask people who have questions about what we do from here forward to save that for our closed session, when we'll be seeking advice of counsel for the same thing. So anything up to date, public, you should know it, and then we will have an opportunity to consider what we do next. And we'll do that in closed session. Skip.
Okay, so I just have 2 items. I'll get to the collective bargaining matter in just a minute. we are going to have a new Millersville library. It's in the capital plan. It's like 4 or 5 years out. So it'll be a few years after the Glen Burnie Library project is finished, and we'll get started with Millersville. But we have begun talking, all this past year, we were very interested and involved in recognizing veterans and military families. And one thing that we started thinking about was the idea of naming the Millersville Library, because it is so close to the Crownsville Veterans Cemetery and so on, but the Veterans Memorial Library. So when I talked about this with Chris a couple of days ago, or yesterday, I guess, we thought it would be good for one of the committees to take this up. Right now, we're thinking finance and audit, because this is a capital project going through the capital budget, and we would see the official name go into all of those documents. So I think that's who you thought we should assign that to. So just next month, when the Finance and Audit Committee meets, just give it some consideration. We know with the Michael E. Bush Annapolis Library, as Darnice was talking about, that's a mouthful. It is a lot, and we call it Bush Annapolis and so on. So we don't know if we want to call this the Millersville Veterans Memorial Library or just the Veterans Memorial Library. The advantage to having the place name is people know where it is. If it's just the Veterans Memorial, it could be, could be anywhere. But that is going to be a matter for the committee to take up. And any questions before I move to the collective bargaining?
Yeah, Rob.
I just want to make sure, since this is not named after a specific person, we're not going to have any of the foolishness that occurred. I mean, we're okay to name this after all our veterans, aren't we?
As I understand it, for anything that is named, and this is in our lease agreement with the county, the board puts forward the name. We just simply run it by the county to make sure they don't have objections to the name, and then they give it our blessing. It's spelled out in some detail in the lease agreement as to exactly what that is. In practice, when we have had naming of sections of libraries, for example, I've simply notified, at the time it was when Christine Anderson was the head of central services, and now that she's chief administrative officer, I'll probably still just let her know. And they just want to be aware in case we name it something silly like the Bubblegum Library,
That would be
What's your problem with bubblegum, Skip?
We just haven't got a library to name that yet.
The next one.
The next one, yeah. Okay, so let me just tell everybody what's going on or not going on with collective bargaining. As you know, back in November when we met, we thought that we were going to have a statewide enabling legislation bill worked out between the unions and MAPLA. MAPLA is the Maryland Association of Public Library Administrators. MAPLA has not heard boo from the unions. There is a Delegate Solomon in Montgomery County, who is sponsoring a bill, a statewide bill. Excuse me. And the people that I've talked with in the General Assembly, from the Anne Arundel delegation, they're fully expecting that bill to move forward. But it hasn't yet. MAPLA works with Hannah Garagiola, who is the president of Compass Advocacy, and Hannah has been in touch with Delegate Solomon's office on a regular basis. As of yesterday, as far as we know, even Delegate Solomon hasn't seen a draft, at least as far as we know. So that's where things are with that, and we'll go into more detail on kind of follow-up as we get into the closed session. So that's my report. Any questions that anybody has about anything maybe I didn't mention or bring up? Is there anything from my team that you all wanted to bring up? Nope, I think we're all good, so that's it.
Okay, moving right along then. Kathy, once again, as chair of the finance committee.
Hey, I would like, Chris, your comments welcoming Dylan to the Finance and Audit Committee. Really pleased that he's agreed to join us. At this point, I'd like to have a motion to approve the operating and supplemental budget request for fiscal year 2025.
Is this a motion coming from the committee?
Yes, please.
So then we don't need a second and I just call any discussion.
So is there any discussion on this?
Skip.
Yeah, I would just like to point out a couple of things in the budget, and anybody on my executive team, if you would like to comment on anything. We have, I forget the exact number, 12 or 14 or so supplementals. How many is it? 17 supplementals. First of all, several of you are going to budget town halls, and the main thing that we're really focused on is our number one request, which is market adjustments. As you know, that was our number one request last year. We were asking for $2.9 million, and what we got was really good. We got the 5% merit and 3% cost of living plus $1 million. So that's kind of unheard of, and we were really happy with that. Where that put us, because we then went back to PRM this fall and asked them to review where our staff are now, given inflation, given where everything is, and the overall cost of living merit plus the $1 million helped our employees advance beyond where their peers were this past year and where they are as of this year. With all that in mind, we determined that we need $1.43 million to get everybody to where they should be with respect to their peers. And what we mean by that is getting every one of our employees, based on their years of experience, to where they should be if they're going to be essentially right in the average. Tobin, correct me if I'm wrong on this. If they're right at the average of what our peer group is. And our peer group consists of about a dozen libraries, primarily in the central Maryland area, but a few in other parts of the country, I think one or two, maybe Cincinnati and maybe some others. Plus for the non-library positions such as HR, finance, IT, et cetera, we looked at several government organizations. So if we can get that 1.43 million, and Cedric and Coven and I have been in discussions with the budget office, and we think that we're in agreement on a plan to get us there. We'll be in really good shape for our employees come July 1st. So I just wanted to mention that. We have 16 additional requests. There's a bunch of positions. There's still kindergarten readiness that's there with more vehicles, and there's a couple of things we have to have. They're like number 2, 3, 4 in there. But we have the equity officer position and, just a lot of needs. So there's a lot of needs beyond that, but we're really asking our advocates at the town halls to focus on market adjustments.
Yeah, and you've also got people already volunteering to appear at public hearings.
Christine, could you talk to that?
We have 23 people testifying. That is only the ones that I know about. There's a member of the trustees and a member of the foundation board, at least one, testifying at every hearing, as well as a staff person, typically the branch manager. And then last night was the first hearing. We actually had 5 people testify. So we are very well represented. We were better well represented than the teachers, which is highly unusual.
That's great. And I know we are always in contact with the Staff Association liaisons, and we have, by the way, Maya Glassman joined us just a few minutes ago, and Georgianne Montanari. are here. I believe both of you are here in your role representing Staff Association. So we put out the word to the Staff Association, look, at any member of the Staff Association who wants to testify, we encourage that. But
So it's a call also for members of the board?
oh, yeah, and we have some, you know, like, yeah, anybody who wants to, I think we've got our kind of handpicked group of foundation people and trustees and staff and managers. That makes up the 23, but like Christine is saying, any additional advocacy is great. And I love that we did more than the teachers. That's great. Because the teachers are always out in force.
Emails to your council member or the county executive are also very effective. They literally count the number of comments they get on certain topics, so please feel free to do that as well.
I'm going to speak at only one of these, and that's the District 3, which is Pasadena, because I want to take a few minutes to talk about the Revere Beach Library and the Mountain Road Library, because that community has been a little bit through a ringer this year with the change. I will say about Mountain Road that we are seeing more people at Mountain Road Library than we had at the old location. So we picked a great site for that library. I think, I'm gonna get this off, but Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong. I think for one of the months recently, we had like 4,000 people as opposed to 3,000 the same month last year.
It was about, for October and November, it was about 800 more people for each month than we had seen the year before in those months.
Yeah, so that's great. And we will be opening Revere Beach Library. Rudy, could you maybe give the board, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but any kind of an update on Rivera?
We finally reached a point where we are both predicting when we're gonna get occupancy of the building. We're looking at the 1st of March for that. We're doing a punch list walkthrough next week, starting next Monday. And that gives the contractor 28 days to finish all the touch-ups, all the little things that were missed during the regular construction period. The building's looking really good. We have a stocking certificate, so the crew at Rivera Beach is shelving the collection as we speak. So we're looking good for perhaps a mid-April grand opening. I'll defer to Christine, who's are you the chair of the grand opening committee? Kathleen and I, bracketed by the grand opening committee chairs. So they just got the notice, so they're getting geared up to start the grand opening planning, starting soon.
31st.
31st of January.
Rob?
So if you're hearing of a strange man standing outside the library that's me. No one. But
We
yeah,
can get you a tour.
that would be lovely. That would be wonderful.
But, Kathy, can you work with Monica or somebody to get him a tour?
I can, absolutely.
Anybody here can have a tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to say they are very active in there. So it's exciting. And Skip, do you still want me to attend that meeting as well, where you're speaking? Because I'm.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely
Yes.
want you to testify, please.
Absolutely. Just one other thing I want to put Rudy on the spot for here. Can you give us any kind of an update on where we stand with the architect selection process that DPW is running for the Glen Burnie project?
Yes, so we met with the project manager from DPW, the Department of Public Works, to review the proposal of the architects who are bidding on the Glen Burnie Library. We had 4 proposals that made it through to consideration. 3 of them were very, very, very competitive. We selected one who is now going to be presented to the DPW's consultant selection committee. They're supposed to be meeting sometime in the next week to make their final decision. So we will know we'll know if our recommendation came across approved sometime soon.
Okay.
We're very hopeful. As I mentioned, the three that made it to the final consideration are all very competitive. So whichever one of those firms comes through will be a good addition for us.
That's great. Once we have this finalized and it's under contract, then is it like a month or 2 or 3 after that we might start engaging with staff and the community to start the conceptual design process?
Once the consultant selection committee makes its decision, they have about a month to sign the contracts, and then about a week after that is when the notice to proceed gets issued. So we're looking at maybe 3, maybe 4 months before we actually sit down with staff and begin the detailed plan.
Great, that's great.
Okay, well,
This is not about that. This is going back to the market rate adjustment topic that we discussed earlier.
I'm sorry, going back to the,
To the discussion about offering testimony at these budget hearings, the market rate adjustment. So as somebody who's going to be speaking on this next week, I just wanted a clarification. And maybe this is semantics, or maybe it's symptomatic of me just not being familiar with how some of these budgets work. But the market rate adjustment, am I right? That's a supplemental that's probably calculated every year. We determine what that amount should be in order to keep.
Actually, this is for the last 3 budget cycles, we have put in a market rate adjustment. The way our budgets work, we start with a base budget. So Cedric works with the budget office in order to adjust salaries based on what's going to be needed next year. So in other words, you take our entire staff, what they're making or projected to be making as of June 30th, and they sit down with that. That becomes kind of the starting point, and then on top of that, our staff have for the last decade been getting the entire merit and COLA that is provided to the non-represented staff. It's gotten us about 50% ahead of where we were 10 years ago over that time. But this market rate adjustment is based on a study that we contracted with a firm called PRM. The study was done 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and it looked at where our employees' salaries fall with respect to their peer group. And we determined that last year we needed 2.9 million to get us to there, and this year we got about halfway there. So this year it's 1.43 million needed, and that is on top of, that's basically what is needed.
Well, I guess my question is, I see that it's listed as a recurring.
It's recurring because if it is funded, then it will be a permanent part of the budget, and then the following year it would be built into the base budget.
That was my question.
Got it, okay.
it's a good question, because, it's not the budgets are prepared.
Yeah.
And that is good. Are there any other questions or comments about the motion that's on the table to approve the operating and supplemental budget requests? Then all in favor? Any opposed? Simona, is that in favor?
I'm in favor too.
Okay, so it's unanimous and the motion passes. Now, I know Mr. Eastep has been called away for something. He's not at the meeting today yet. He's hoping to join us. Is there anybody else who has anything to report from the Governance Strategy and Organization Committee?
I can tackle that. There's nothing, whatever we discussed at the last meeting was what we just approved on the consent agenda. So it was the 3 items were the new program selection policy, updated lost and damage policy to comply with our overall collection policy and state law. And then we had a discussion with regarding public comment procedure, and generally agreed that we would continue the rule of order, which put public comment after the approval of the minutes, so.
Yeah, and I read those minutes, so we put them where your committee requested. And that seems fine. Any questions that people may have of the committee? How about Sandy Solomon for the Human Resources and Diversity Committee?
Well, Tim, Skip met with us and we discussed some of the things that we had discussed before about the situation that we're in, and that was basically the whole meeting.
So this discussion about the union organizing.
Right, yes.
All right. Any questions that people have of the committee? Then I'd like to move into,
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure to do the
Oh.
foundation board.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Of course. I passed you by.
I'll make it quick. We obviously have the foundation board report and on board effect, but wanted to at least mention the fact that last meeting, we approved unanimously the foundation funding vision, which actually helps us to, it establishes guiding principles for us to fund library grants. So when we have needs that come before the foundation, these are the principles that we're using to decide if we'll fund those needs that come before us. So I won't read all of that, but we've got the entire funding vision in the report. And then also, the board approved the fiscal 2023 financial audit, which had no issues or material weaknesses. And we also approved the fiscal 2023 990. And then through the end of the year, the community has donated $396,259 toward the foundation revenue budget, which is 73% to goal. So we want to thank all of the foundation, all of the trustees who donated over the last fiscal year, and especially those who were able to help with the end of year campaign. And so, we just always are looking to support the library through the foundation with our giving. Just in terms of fundraising events, we've got a new chair for the Level Library Committee. It's actually the 10th anniversary of our signature fundraising event. So Eloise Brown has agreed to serve as one of the chairs of the committee. The next for the Level Library is going to be on September 24th or 27th of this year. Again, at Bush Annapolis Library. And the rest of the details are there in the report. So I just wanted to at least kind of highlight those areas of the report today.
Well, that's excellent news, and 73% is good.
Yeah.
So is there a hope that you're going to exceed your budget on the revenue line?
Great. Oh, maybe, yes, I hope so.
Okay, well, very good. Thank you. Questions or comments?
I just want to say that my favorite picture out of all of For the Love of the Library is you raising your paddle to, and I don't know how much you ended up donating that night, but I encourage every trustee to come to the event this year. It's always so much fun, but seriously, that is just the best photo.
Yeah, definitely a fun night.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of being able to serve on the committee as well this year, so definitely a worthwhile effort to support as a trustee.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Or the foundation board? All right, then I'd like to ask for a motion to move into closed session under General Provisions Article Section 3-305 subsection B7 to seek legal advice concerning the matter. And, may I have such a motion?
So moved.
Motion
I'll
and a
second. Aye.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any? All right, then the vote is unanimous, and I call us together in closed session. ask visitors and staff to excuse themselves.